healthcare CRM strategy and has been quoted in trade journals on new strategies he has developed. So please welcome them this morning as your speakers.
Thank you for taking the time. We have about 45 minutes today, I think, and I'm going to try and go through it at a pretty good clip because hopefully we'll have time for some questions and answers afterwards. If for some reason I start droning on, you can kind of do this thing and keep going. Maybe Theresa might just kind of control or something. But I'm going to talk a little bit about how long we've been with KishHealth.
Yeah. So our relationship with True North goes back to 10 years now. We partnered with True North initially on some custom content of publication that's more something really exciting now. We're going to share some data on with you. And then as they developed a CRM platform, we were with their first alpha client with that, and really learning the integration between traditional hospital content and marketing and how to bring data into it. So we're unique because I think we're small to community hospitals, and so hopefully we can bring some quick wins to you. It doesn't necessarily need to be the biggest CRM platform, and you don't need $1 million for a budget. There's some simple concepts, whether or not you have CRM to employ, that we can hopefully learn from today.
Great. So yeah, I thought what we would do is we would kind of, and I think CRM, this is probably the 900th CRM presentation you've seen on one of these things. So what I was hoping to do is just sort of like lay some really basic grounding of what's happening in the market now and how we're going to define it. Because I feel like there's a lot of people like, we do CRM, we do CRM. So we'll say, here's what our definition is of it. This is how we would want to measure things and how you utilize the system. And then, you know, how you can take advantage of it. I also try to put some things in because not everybody has a CRM database. And we realize that. So other ways that you can use data and information about your patients, CRM is customer relationship management, so it means you kind of know about them. So what other ways can you leverage information about your patients to be more meaningful? We'll walk through a case study that Theresa did, and hopefully, really sort of give you some stuff you can make you think, you can ask questions, or some things you can take right away. Current state of the healthcare market is kind of interesting. This is a couple years old now, but if you look at the size of the share of health systems that have deployed a CRM system, so over $1 billion, you're a little over 50%. But what we see is like those 25 million to 100 million, that we're like, I think it's something like less than 10%. And for not being able to pitch, but True North kind of realized that was a really open area, and that there isn't, these platforms are expensive and they're really amazingly powerful. They're like Aladdin's lamp. You can ask for anything, you just have to know what to ask for it. But they're pretty serious investments. So True North has tried to really position ourselves as somebody who can do CRM for smaller organizations. This is really fuzzy. This is kind of talking about what they're using it for in terms. It's so fuzzy. It's really customer relationship management and for acquisition and for engagement are kind of the two biggies, and then also physician relationship marketing. And there's a whole flip side of CRM that's the physician side. That it's a different animal, and for the most part, what I'd like to talk today is about patient engagement and patient acquisition. And again, this is really talking about how well your website and CRM are integrated. And there's 11% that no and no plans to, 12% not sure, 11% yes and well integrated, 17% yes, not well integrated for the website, and then no but plans to in the next 6 to 9 months. So part of the idea of doing CRM is by nature, the definition of it, of a CRM database, is the idea that you capture everything you can about your patients and your prospects. And this is kind of like the standard definition I've been using for like 10 years from the Gartner group. But the idea really is, looking at all the available information about the people that you do business with or want to do business with, and trying to really understand them as individual people, and then analyze them, and then deliver really targeted, segmented messages to them that will resonate with them. That's the whole deal. That's like the super long-winded definition. The really simple one is the right message, the right person at the right time. And nowadays we can say via the right channel. And of these things, you know, the right message is all about content. And so one of the things that's interesting, I think, is there's a lot of companies that rushed to create these platforms, and these platforms can talk to you wherever you are. Like, it's amazing how they can get in your face, right? And one of the things they started realizing is, like, if you're gonna be in my face 24/7, you better have something meaningful to say. And so content has become a really big part of it. And if you're just in my face all the time, but you're just kind of showing the same message, or it's not relevant to me, or maybe it demonstrates you don't know me. Like, for instance, I am a patient, not a prospect, so I already have a primary care relationship, so don't try and sell me on that sort of thing. So the idea is that the content that you put in front of them and the targeting is tied together so they get the right message. And actually the thing that I think is the most important in CRM is talking about the right time. And we'll get into this more, but I really believe that the key to getting people, because this, you know, CRM is not branding, and it's a specific kind of marketing that's going to have a call to action. Like, everything you do is a measurable call to action that we can say it worked or didn't work. And if you talk to me at the wrong time, you know, you're wasting my time. So the idea is to know your patients, know your prospects, understand. We're going to talk about event triggers a little bit later, and how that is a really, really important element to having successful marketing campaigns. This is a busy, crazy thing, but I think it'll, you know, depending on. I mean, does anybody in here have a CRM database currently? Oh, yeah. The big idea here at the CRM database is that, like we talked about, this central container, right? And you got two big data sources, big groups. One is your data, and your data comes from your EMR records. So we want to know who's coming in and having an encounter, who they are, do they have a primary care doctor, what the amount of charges was their insurance type, everything about them, what was their primary diagnoses and procedures, what did they come in for? All that stuff wants to flow into a database. And then when we bring in the additional, and this is the CRM partner that everybody should do, is basically you bring in third-party data that enriches your knowledge about your patients. So we have demographic, lifestyle, behavioral, social media preferences, geography, where they are on a map, what their household looks like, when's their birthday, any self-reported conditions, any self-reported health conditions. And the idea is that you take this and the strength of the database and the strength of the technology is that it can figure out that Chris Restle, who came into urgent care because he twisted his ankle playing soccer, is the same Chris Restle who subscribes to, I'm going to make a stupid magazine up, and you know, Muscle and Fitness, or you know, and all these different data points, and they can say this is the same person, and we can see the big picture about them. And the other part then is so you take all these people in the database, you have this personing logic as well, which I think is critical. And if you don't have strong personing logic, you're going to have 15 different instances of the same person living at the same address. And if you see that, then there's a problem with your database. So you take that, you merge all those things, you can actually dedupe the records, make sure it's all one person. You group them into households, right? This is really powerful. And the reason, now this is one of the slides I could talk the whole presentation about. The householding is really important because let's say you have a goal of growing primary care relationships. You want to acquire new patients. Well, you can go to a household where you don't know anybody about anything. You're just using basic information saying, well, they look like they have a good income. We should try marketing them. Or you can look at a household where you have a patient. Let's say mom has used services. Dad and the kids haven't had an encounter yet. You've already broke that one barrier there of use is already broken. So you actually have a much stronger chance of converting those people because you already have a connection with them. So to group into households is really vital to this. And then you apply predictive models. Again, everybody's got different ideas of what predictive models are. Super important that they are actually built on healthcare encounters so that you can actually, like the predictive models that you see in the market often are like, they're like, oh, we got 150 predictive models. They're all like, you know, like, it's like we're just in the Pottery Barn catalog, not whether or not somebody needs bariatric surgery. So the idea is that predictive models built on actual health encounters is really important. And then we use a control group. I think the most of the major ones that have a really powerful CRM solution are going to use a control group, which I'll talk about later, which will really allow you to track, and it's going to basically allow you to take credit for your marketing and say it's working or it's not working. This is the incremental effect.
And Chris, real quick, one
Yeah.
point that we can make for people that, because a lot of people don't have a CRM database, I think that's an important point.
Yeah.
Something you could do right away. So when you do deploy a direct mail piece, I mean, you can begin to just try to take a very small group and manually look through and see if they, if they engage. Something as simple as registering for a class or a program, hold back and look and see if this worked. Did it not? Maybe deploy two different communications, maybe a radio ad and a postcard, and then put two different phone numbers on them, and then see which one had the better results of the type of community we're attempting to aim at. So you don't necessarily need a CRM, but the concept behind a CRM is something, if you don't have it yet, that you can begin to apply to be able to track the results and take credit and hopefully eventually justify your reason for bringing that on board.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the depth of experience you bring. The end little box there is really the one part of it is, if you have this or if you think about doing this, is part of it is like trying to get the most out of it, which is the topic here, and getting the most out of it is also built around the idea that you're not the only one that has to pay for it if you can get other people to use it. So the view that you get of your patients and prospects is such that it would be obviously marketing. Finance could actually, I've several hospitals that don't really have super strong accounting departments have found that the CRM database gives them great insights into payer mix and reimbursement. Planning departments, same thing, especially using predictive models. You can show the planning department where the high-risk populations are in case they want to put in a facility. Business development, really obviously, population health management. So there's a huge amount of things. That was the longest I'll talk in these slides. So now, if you think about targeting efficiently again, the current paradigm has often been to just, it's heart month, it's February, everybody over this age is getting something, and you're possibly purchasing a list from an external source. Again, you don't know who your current patients are. You don't even know if they had open heart surgery last month necessarily if you're buying a list. So it can be kind of awkward, right? So the idea is to look at different things. And again, I realize this is kind of built around a data-driven, a really data-driven approach. And so the things that you can look at if you have access to data is payer type. Again, if you can actually, you want to talk to everybody, but let's say you're doing a direct marketing, it's a direct mail as an example, and say I always say, like, I have $1 to spend, and I got two people over there that look like they're about the same risk for heart disease. Who do I talk to? I'm like, well, arguably it's the person who can, it's a handwritten, invitation saying companies or services, the person who's going to keep you in business and reimburse. So the idea is to use this type of targeted marketing to improve your payer mix. So that's a big part. The third-party data, and if you don't have a CRM database, you can work with people just to use this third-party information. And you can certainly look at demographics, and you can be smart, and you say, we don't have to buy everybody in our primary and secondary service area, but we don't have to get a list of just everybody over a certain age, but you can actually look at things a little more in detail and work with your team or work with a partner to build a profile or a persona out of what you believe these patients would look like.
It's like something as simple, just a quick example. When you're not going to dig into your data, like if you don't have a CRM, but you are going to do a direct mail piece or you do have a publication that goes out, if you're using a saturation list that's like so 10 years ago.
Yeah. Right.
It's so easy now to access things as simple as a minimum household income, which is a really simple one, helps to begin to narrow hopefully the payer type. But looking at things like presence of children in the household, women in the household, obviously the primary decision makers in healthcare. So how do you take the cost at $3 a piece mailing 100,000? I can only do it once a year, like you talked about your dollar concept.
Yeah.
To how can I make that more applicable to the people I'm trying to talk to? And so maybe I'm not going to print 100,000, maybe I'm only going to print 30,000, but then I can engage those people 4 times a year instead of once a year. So just challenge your thinking on everything that you're doing to find out, is there a way to make it apply?
That was absolutely, so I've been working with CRM companies for the past 10, 11 years, and there was often, like now I work for a company that makes magazines too, but when we were talking to these clients that were building a CRM database, and they had a magazine with a huge saturation, and then you're like, realistically, you can cut this down by 1/3, and there will be, the only net effect is like to save money.
Right.
And because,
pays for itself in the first deployment.
yeah, exactly. So something else, like, so again, not a pitch because I'm sure there's all people have it. We have a database, everything from predictive models up. We have a database that has all the information of everybody in the United States. So you don't have to have a CRM database to be very targeted and do a service line campaign. We work with our clients and they say, hey, we want to do outreach program to people in our market that are high risk to develop diabetes. Okay, here's a list. This is what they look like. We can actually show them, where they live on a map, and you can see like a heat map that shows which zip codes have the most density, and you can do it for anything, right? So, and this is something that I think it's going to cause you guys, like the second I think marketers see this, they go to a strategy person, like, right? Because they're like, well, really, if that's the case, then, these are all people that are high risk to have a baby the next year. They're high risk for OB model, and, well, maybe I should put my billboards over here, so again, to leverage that information for other business uses, I think is valuable. And so my job has always been to help you get the most out of your investment, and to, like, you want to, like, from a provider, like from a service provider, we want to go wide and deep within your organization because we want everybody from planning to population health to make use of this thing, and ultimately it makes it easier for you to afford it, but it also just, it's a powerful tool, and we get everybody on the same page. One of the things that is, I think, vital to healthcare marketing is the idea of a trigger campaign, and it is, again, now this is something that is easier to do. I think we get a CRM database, no doubt, it's designed to do this one thing, but once you get your head around the idea of why we do trigger campaigns, you can look at pieces of information with your own organization, you can look at digital leads coming in and different things, and how you think, it goes hand in hand with marketing automation. But the traditional model was, like I said, February's heart month. Let's hit the mail. Everybody gets these. We talk to everybody the same, whether they're patient or prospect. We don't know really much about them. And lo and behold, we might now have enough people responding all at once that we have a wait of several weeks to get, like a heart screening. So the idea of a trigger campaign, event trigger marketing, is all about need. And we sort of have this. I feel like as a healthcare marketer, we have this innate knowledge that the best possible thing we could do is if there was one of us to every patient, and you're waiting for them to have like some moment of like, oh my gosh, something's wrong, something's changed in my life, and I'm not sure what to do. And instead of us now in February, the idea is to talk to them when something changes, and we have, when you have data coming in, you can see they took some action, something happened, they got a new diagnosis code, they went on your website and they looked up information on heart disease, and that's the time to talk to them. So instead of doing one big mailing or one big email push in February, the idea is to talk to them when it triggers communication. And it's what ends up happening is they're much more likely to respond, right?
Well, and you're much more likely to support your service line year-round instead of a big spike and then a huge wall for another 11 months.
Right. So it's all about sustainable growth, right? Instead of one big push, because that's the idea is like, this isn't about you, the hospital. This is about me, the patient, right? And so that was like one of the big things we talk about people is stop being me, the hospital. Your marketing needs to be you, the patient. Make it about them, make it relevant. Talk to them when it's relevant to them, and they're much more likely to respond.
And again, one example of how you could do this without a CRM, just kind of feel out the water, is if you worked with a certain service line, maybe the ED, and you pulled up, some diagnosis codes that were inappropriate in the ED, and you had to pull that list of patients, or you took a look at those patients. So this subset of patients are using the ER for sore throats. And maybe you take that same group of people and you start deploying education on primary care or convenient care locations that you have. Just try that. I mean, that's trigger. And you can do it obviously much more sophisticated when you have a big data warehouse. But if you don't have a big data warehouse, there's little simple ways that you can begin to look at this person did this with us, and so they're more likely to need this, and this with us, and begin to start. And if you can wrap those in and start doing some of those year-round, you're just adding that support.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the same thing is if you can engage your IT resources to help you do this, it's fantastic. And the strongest response I've ever seen for like a primary care acquisition campaign, so you're trying to grow your practices, you're trying to get new primary care patients, was when we started looking every month at a hospital, it's a standalone hospital, and they said, every month we have people who, every day we have people who come into our ER I've never seen again. They just use us for one time, and I said, well, They have insurance? We don't know. Sure you do, they're your patients. So you look in the data and you say, okay, show me every single month, show me people that come into our emergency room that have an encounter, doesn't have to be inappropriate or not, but who have an encounter, who have good commercially reimbursable insurance, and we've never seen them before. It looks like they don't have a primary care relationship with us. Talk to them right now about having a primary care doctor. Don't do it just when it's time because you opened up a new clinic. Talk to them right now because they just came out of there, they probably need follow-up care, that's when they're gonna respond. And that has been that's like lowest hanging fruit on the primary care acquisition tree I know about. But so all these things, cardio, you can come in for any one of these things. And again, now we're getting more complex like a CRM database, but when you get a diabetes diagnosis, you come into the ER with chest pain. Think about why, let's go back to my example of going to urgent care, they sprain my ankle. What's the first thing they do before they even look at my ankle is they take my blood pressure, right? Oh, gee, Chris, you got hypertension? What? Holy cow, I walk out of there. So now I have a diagnosis code, right? That flows into a system or it can flow into your IT resources. Suddenly, I'm walking out of there thinking, well, my ankle's gonna be fine, but I can't believe I've got high blood pressure. What do I do now? Well, I should get my heart tested. So talk to me now about it. And that's the whole idea is the event trigger is all about need. Talk to people when they need you, when they want an answer and they want some guidance. One of the things that I thought would be helpful in talking about, well, again, it's CRM, but this is broader. It certainly doesn't. This does not need to be CRM. But when you think about measurement of campaigns and metrics versus ROI, I think it's a big distinction. And I think a lot of people say ROI, but they mean metrics. And so we have, and you don't have to have a CRM database, certainly not. But you have all these different ways to view online behavior. You have all these ways to look at clicks and opens. You can use, like vanity URL websites, social shares, right? We have all these digital things that show us what happens, or call center data, right? All these pieces of information that are saying people are saying they're responding to a campaign, right? And these can tell you that you have a real lead, right? And you can walk these people through the process, but ultimately, if you're doing a digital campaign and you're like, I feel like what it says, goals and expectations need to match tactics. And so if you're doing a digital campaign, you're trying to reach people out on the internet, you're all these different places within the decision spectrum, like when are they ready to actually make a change, have surgery, have an encounter, like they're not always there yet, right? They're gonna walk through this whole process. And so metrics tell us how they're going along the path, but they're not gonna tell you whether or not something worked if you're being held to hip replacements. If your goal is hip replacements and you're just looking at these metrics, they're metrics. They're meant to help you optimize your marketing. You can change things on the fly, but I would never make a decision that something is a failure because we're not seeing enough clicks and opens and
It's your map. Your map might have been that you assumed the patient was going to start here and end here, and instead they went, this way. And so at least if you have those points of measurement all along the way, one, you can justify what you're doing, but two, you can, like you said, optimize and change your approach.
Yeah.
But ultimately, ROI is how many actually ended at the end.
Right, and that's the difference here. Is ROI is measurement of services consumed by those you marketed to after they receive your communication, right? After they got it, what do they do? So again, easier to do with CRM database, but ultimately, if you have some insights into your organizations and counter data, you can tie these people through. I think it's a real manual process, right? But the way that we do it, which I'll spend a little time on, because I also think you may hear this a lot, and I don't actually think a lot of people that are doing CRM even understand like the whole concept of the control group. And so that's kind of an important element in measuring response. The control group, the idea of it and the value of it is such that you can say, this is actually the effect of my campaign. I can take credit for this. I succeeded or I failed. And you have to get buy-in within the organization. Like this is the metric we're going to use. We're going to use control group. The way it looks, like if you think of your database, and it's hard to be hard to do something around, but I wanted to spend some time talking about it. It's like it's a big glass of water full of people. There's like your whole data. It's everybody. It's your patients. It's your prospects. It's everybody in your market, and they all look different. They have different conditions and different incomes and different insurance types. Well, when you build a database, you shake up the water really good so they're randomized, and you take about 5 to 10% of them over here, and you say, this is my control group. The reason I say they're randomized is because you want them to look like, they kind of represent everybody. So it's really randomized, right? And so now we say, okay, these people look just like these people except for one thing. They're not gonna get our direct marketing. They're gonna hear radio, they'll see your newsprint ads, they'll see everything else you do except targeted CRM direct mail. And so now, let's say that you wanna do a campaign. You say, okay, hey, we wanna do a campaign for people that are diagnosed with diabetes, okay? And we want to be a positive insurance payer, and we want them to be in our secondary and our primary. So what we're doing then, this is a target audience, right? We've set up very specific criteria who we want to talk to. And so what naturally happens is about 90% of them, 95% of them are over here in the targets, and about 5 to 10% of them go into the control group. So now, let's talk to them. We talk to the targets, we don't talk to the control group. And then we watch what happens, okay? And the idea is the conversation that you can have, that you probably have with like, CFO or whoever is like, hey, my marketing's awesome. And they're like, how do you know, business might be up, but these people were sick, they would have come in anyways, right? I mean, how do you take credit? So what would have happened anyways is the control group. We didn't talk to them. They have the same risk, they have the same diagnosis, they have the same, every piece of information is the same. So what did they do different? So when we show ROI, and this is what we do for Theresa with KishHealth magazine, is we look month by month and we calculate out what would the response have been every month with the magazine, as an example, with your magazine, if we hadn't talked to these people. And the control group says, well, we would have had 551 encounters. That's what happened. We don't try and take credit for everything. So 551 of these people in January would have come in anyways, but we actually had 763. And in February, again, the number was 721 expected, based on the control group, actual 865. So you can actually every month say, these are incremental encounters. You can take credit for them. The magazine did this. It's statistically valid. When you kind of walk them through this process and talk about the incremental encounters, and you can figure out incremental contribution margin and everything, CFOs love that because they're like, yeah, I took stats in college, finally marketing makes sense, I get this, right? So when you get them to buy in on it, then everybody's on the same platform and the same level. And then you start saying, hey, yeah, marketing, like the whole idea, and this is the whole idea, I think, is that marketing, you don't want it to be like a cost center, you want it to be a profit center.
And you can't look at it, a lot of people new to this have a really big problem with holding out the good people in the control group. Well, why wouldn't we take 100% of our top 90?
Yeah.
They're probable, they're good payers, why would we leave them out of this mix? We'll hold our 10% at the bottom, we'll hold that 10%, and then you're not truthful. So it is really a hard sell, it takes a few times to be able to show them, because we are so set on being able to be relevant to everyone, but you're not proving it, and so your techniques aren't being refined based on what's working if you're not holding a control group.
And if your control group isn't constructed right, it'll totally screw it. So if your magazine population that you're mailing to, if 80% of that group is over a certain age, and 80% of the people that you're mailing to live within 2 miles of the hospital, but a lesser percent of the control group do, if they don't match in every way, then one group is going to use services at a higher level than the other one. Like it's not equal. So you got to get really good at it. But that's how we take credit for it. One last thought about this, and this is not related to CRM, and I apologize for how dark this is. It doesn't look dark on my computer. But the idea is to think about the big picture of my marketing. And so let's say that we do, I measured this type of thing on a CRM database. You don't have to, but you have CRM targets. Let's say you mail 11,500 people, okay? And this is, I call this a hoop report because it shows that people have to jump through hoops for us to measure them. And so you have CRM targets, 11,500 people you contact. Let's say that 196 of them call your call center, and the call to action was to actually attend an event. So of those people, 41 people attended the event. And then of those people, let's say it was a joint replacement class. And of those people, we had 16 people that actually had an encounter. But what you see is that's not the whole picture, because there was also people that didn't call the call center. They might have gone right to their doctor, right? So if you're really focused on the digital chain of events, you might miss that there was actually 9 people that went right to their doctor and had joint replacement. They didn't go see. They didn't call the call center. They didn't go to the doctor. But the big picture is that it's complex, and it's hard to see everything. It's hard to see everything unless you're like looking at the encounters at the end of the line. This is one more ridiculously complex diagram for you guys. I think I like this one. So, if you think about your marketing, and actually I have one to contrast with this one where you don't have a CRM database too, so I'll show you that one. But the idea is that you really want to be able to nurture people through the process, and again, understand that not everything is designed to, hey, we're doing a stroke campaign, so what's called to action? Have a stroke? No, obviously not, right? So you can't expect that things are going to happen the instant somebody reads something, especially with healthcare marketing. It takes a long time to see things happen and matriculate. But if you have all, like print, you have email, pay-per-click, search engine optimization, social, web-based banner ads. Often what we do is we want to have a meaningful call to action. We can't always get people into a screening, right? It's hard to do, and it's hard to get doctors to sit through them. So a lot of times now we have some great digital content, and you have campaign landing pages for people to go to. So what's really important is you want to be able to. I think all our marketing. I think it's really important not to have what I would call like a data dead end, meaning that we don't want this just to stop here. Like if those people go to that landing page, who are they? I want to know. So what we want to try and do is collect as much information about them as possible, and in our case, load it into the database, because then we want to trigger another communication, right? So they went to the landing page, they self-identified, they consumed some information about cardiovascular services or joint replacement or whatever it is, and when they do that, what you want to do is you want to like move them along. Maybe get them to a health risk assessment or a web form, they fill it out, and we're going to keep on collecting data, get them down to the call center, and eventually convert them to the encounter. But the idea is it's a long path. Not everybody is always ready to pull the trigger right now. In fact, of course they're not,
That's the advantage of a CRM as opposed to the old way that we used to develop goals and measure the effectiveness of them. So if you do have a joint center campaign or joint center goal for a fiscal year, we were going to grow by 10%. Traditionally, we would just look at the end of the year and see, did the service line grow 10%? No, oh man, we failed. But maybe if we were using CRM, reflecting on this data and information on it, and maybe that person that we thought we targeted the joint center campaign with was only the beginning with them, and because we now have information on them, we found out that they actually were a diabetic patient that needed all these other services, and so the ROI tracked in a different way. So it's really that ability to be fluid and have really almost a daily handle on where you're at with what's going on, and shift your approach instead of waiting to the end to find out whether it worked or not.
That's great. Switching gears a little bit. Another part of the idea is that you can, so getting more value out of data, and getting value. One of the things that True North that we've started doing, which I think is pretty neat, is that we make a lot of content for you. So now and I will state that we have a partnership with a data company, KishHealth, which now that's part of us upping our game, was partnering with them because they have the most data and the best data. So one of the things that came out of it is we have a database where we can look up, like I said, we can look up people in the market that are high risk for a bunch of different stuff. Right? We can get really granular about them. Well, when we do that, what happens is we see where they are right on the map, and like instantly we get audience insights about them. So think about when you're building content, okay? So think about when you're writing a newsletter or writing an article or a web page, and you can now know breakdown of all the people that are high risk for something or fit certain criteria. You can look at breakdown of their age, gender, ethnicity, income, what language they speak at home, level of education, presence of children, known or unknown. So all these things. So when we're even if you're, think about this, like it would make a lot of sense if you want to do a mailing, right? You pull a list out of there. But let's just say that you are making a web page or a landing page, and you actually want it to be for people. This is a web page for people with a given condition, people that are having chronic joint pain, okay? So even though I'm not going to pull a list and mail these people, I'm writing a web page that's meant for this audience. If I say, okay, show me what the people that are high risk for joint pain or joint replacement look like, now we can write content around it that really looks like them, and you can do this instantly. So data-driven content, I think, is a really great way to leverage information, and again,
it's easier to write an article if somebody said to you, could you please write content for, 55-year-old women who are wondering what the risk of age-related diseases would be in the next 10 years? Or can you submit 500 words for a newsletter?
Yeah.
And that's really what your difference is. You're
Yeah.
using that, it's almost Big Brother-ish, but you're be able to go and say, okay, who is going to read this? And what is it about them? And how do we be relevant to them in a way that, is unique and a lot more successful? And again, you're not trying to be everyone to everyone, so you're not mailing that newsletter to everybody or your direct mail piece with joint. You're not mailing that to a 21-year-old athlete. You're mailing that to your 45 to 64-year-old potential joint center patients. So.
Right, so build your content around the audience. Yeah.
So we just started on a CRM, and those charts looked familiar to me because I've seen them from somebody else, but I don't know how they pulled them. And you said it's instant, so I built a web page, and if I want to see my audience as you recommended, like when you say it's instant, like how long does it take to generate that report?
5 seconds?
Okay, I just want to know. I don't know.
Yeah, so as long as
You
it's,
need to
so,
be able to learn the dashboard, and
Yeah.
that's another thing. People that get CRM from a hospital experience standpoint, and I'm just as guilty of it. You become like the person. Like I'm the person for the data, but like I'm not the one that wrote the community newsletter, but she should have access. And so I think that's a very good point, Scott. Is you need that, and that's probably not what somebody thought because you're not in strategy and business development. You're not designing that, but you're right. You leverage your CRM for everything.
So we've actually given people in our content department, like all our editors, people, like, given them access to the tools so that they can look up really quickly a group of people. So if you have a database that has, if you have a list of people that exist in the database that says these are people that have registered or people that are in some way self-identified, the second you identify them and run a count on your database, you can, assuming I think I agree with, and you have these, it's there, it's like, it's instant.
Even like a designer choosing a photo, a stock
Oh,
photo
yeah.
that's going to go on a direct mail piece. Normally we're like, hey, can you design this for this purpose? But if you can go to the designer and say, we know that the audience for this is people that have subscriptions to fitness magazines or outdoor activities, self-identified with muscle pains or whatever. When they're about in this age range and they typically have families or don't. That really just, again, you're making it more relevant. So when you get that out of your mailbox, it feels like you and not like.
Right. Well, and you can even so we'll do like variable data print where you get different versions for different people, and we'll actually see look at demographics and say, well, it's 65% Caucasian and 30% African American and 5% Hispanic. I was trying to do that. And so you can actually do versioning and actually tie the photos to the ethnicity the person's getting it, so it's more relevant to them.
And
So,
type print. Like we noticed the same thing. We were versioning our magazine by age, but yet our type print wasn't bigger for the older publication, and that was a complaint that we got in. And again, we're like, wait a minute, we have the mailing list in front of us, and we know every demographic about these people, and we know that these people are older and likely would prefer a much larger type print than what we're sending them.
Right.
So
So yeah, there's a lot you can learn about people without having to send it. So I thought we'd spend some more time talking about what if you don't have patient database? What can you do? And like I said, so this is a list of predictive models. These are like the type of things, like these are based on actual conditions, and whoever you use or whatever you use, I would say that you search out one that, like I said, it's not like like personas around shotguns and pickups and stars and stripes and all that stuff. It's not about buying patterns, because healthcare consumption isn't really about how you buy things. And that's not so much when you think about actual service line and risk and everything. So you look at models that are built around actual medical encounters. There's data sources you can get that are actually, these are people that are purchased records, self-identified people who have kind of signed up for free stuff, so like free glucose strips or free back pain medicine or you name it. So one of the things we get access to is we get 60 different conditions. So in any market, you can actually find people that are your prospects. You don't know if they're patients or not, and they've self-identified for everything from joint pain, acid relief, high blood pressure. So you can know more about people in your market without actually having a CRM database. One of the slides I showed you earlier, this one here, which shows all the different ways you can talk to people. And the idea is well, what if, before I had the CRM database over here, I don't have one now, so what can I do, right? So the idea again is let's have no dead ends with data. let's think of how we can collect information every time something happens and use it effectively. It just sits there, right? So when people go to these campaign landing pages, you know, you can use a vanity URL and you can use web analytics to see who's going there and try it again. If you could get a form fill or some like a health risk assessment or something on there meaningful for them to do so we can learn more about them, again, you can use these things to trigger further communications, and you can trigger emails, and you can say, okay, if they did this, it's kind of like nobody has like a real physical answering machine anymore, but like the red blinking light in your answering machine says, call me back. You know, it's like they're telling you, call me back. You know, I did this thing online. I'm curious, right? So I'm the best prospect you got right now. And same thing, like, you know, so you get them down to the call center. Maybe like you move along the call center again to use trackable phone numbers. You don't have to use your hospital number, but to actually get trackable phone numbers that you can actually purchase a specific number for a specific campaign, so that you can then get analytics that tell you that, okay, this piece that we did, if it was direct mail or email, had a phone number in it. This particular number shows that we had, you know, like a 31% response or whatever. So you can actually see people using trackable phone numbers, and then finally getting down to appointment requests. Again, you're not going to get ROI, right? But I feel like when you walk them all the way through this is that idea of nurturing marketing, right? So you're understanding that not everybody's ready to pull a trigger. So you got to walk them through.
Are you doing like an e-blast monthly? Do you just create content and put it out there? Well, did you go back in and look at which articles got open and which ones had the most time spent on them? Is that refining the content that you're going to put out the next time? For those that did do it, we gotta flyer about that.
Yeah. So here's Theresa's a case study, and this is doing. You want to talk about it?
I'll talk really fast. I just want to show you real quick. So I talked a little bit about our content in our magazine. I just want to give this a quick example. So we had a traditional magazine for many years that probably a lot of you have, that you just did a saturation mailing list for. Or maybe you just purchased what you thought was a great list and went with it. So what are you doing even with the content to measure stuff? So we looked at our magazine, and at first we were like, oh, let's version it. We're going to version it by geography, closest to this hospital, closest to this hospital. But we were really challenging ourselves to know whether or not it was working and how we were remaining relevant to our audience. So we did a look at the whole database, and we decided, you know, what do these people look like? What are we sending these people? And then we got it down to, first of all, connecting to the CRM, so we're able to see that the people that are getting the magazine are ultimately doing what they want. But along the way, what we found some lessons learned were versioning by geography wasn't really applicable, because what we were finding is that the use of services and the desire of content, the split wasn't really whether you lived above or below a certain interstate, it was the age that you were. So we actually version our magazine now with empowering health and empowering wellness. So empowering wellness is the younger audience. We kind of looked at where it made sense to make an even split for us with 45 years old. And deciding to put out a shorter magazine, because research shows that people under 45 are looking for a shorter magazine and ability to jump on digitally for kind of the rest of the story. And then the older population wanted 2 and 3 page articles and a lot of photos and, you know, the bigger type print. So our magazine's already even the same size. And then instead of, you know, talking to somebody again, be relevant at the time that they need the service. So we're talking to a 25-year-old woman, we're talking about heart health for you now, preventing heart disease and all that. She's likely not as concerned with what am I going to do right now for, you know, a cardiac cath. She's probably not needing a cardiac cath right now. So again, that relevancy. So something as simple as that was a quick win for us in CRM, and using the trackable numbers to understand our relevancy. And we have tons of graphs. These slides will be available online. But we have a bunch of graphs that can show you the uplift in existing patients, new patients, and you can really see that the ROI numbers and the predictive modeling, what we thought was going to happen and what eventually happens over time as you again continue with every issue to refine that so that we're being relevant to the audience that we intend to at the time that they're wanting that information. So we'll have to stop. So I'll get in trouble for being over.
So needless to say, they were thrilling successes. Does anybody have any questions?
Answer questions.
Yeah, how does HIPAA come into all this? I'm always
Yeah, HIPAA
curious
actually-
about that. Like, what are your limitations?
So there are limitations. HIPAA carves out a very specific niche for this type of communication, and HIPAA does not consider this marketing. They consider it patient education. As long as you're delivering relevant information to people in a secure fashion about their own health and wellness, HIPAA loves it. You got to do certain things to play safe, as far as your partner should help you in terms of, you know, you don't want to have exposed information if they had an encounter. You know,
Mr. Jones, now that you have cancer, let
Yeah.
us introduce you to Dr.
Right.
So-and-so on a postcard.
Yeah,
Let me
so-
see, you know, a
so-
little bit more relevant.
Yeah, the general rule of thumb is don't be scary, don't be freaky. So don't put things in front of them that are going to terrify them or embarrass them or anything like that. But you want to close it up, and a lot of it is more like classic is a bariatric campaign, huge sensitivity issues. So the piece that you send, it does not, like a lot of times what CRM will say, hey, make it really personalized, dialed in. Bariatrics, resident, just address it to resident.
We
Oh, you got.
actually do all resident, because
Yeah.
CRM, while it's really, really smart, isn't 100% foolproof. And sometimes what we've found is that it's worse to have tried to target somebody and got it wrong, because they maybe just moved into that place 3 weeks ago and the mailing list hasn't caught up yet, to say, you know, Mr. Jones, or we had an example of a maternity suite one that we had done, and so we had sent them out, and some younger women that were living at home with their parents ended up giving this piece addressed to them, and the mom said, what is wrong? What haven't you told me yet?
Yeah.
So yes, resident at, family at, or shaping your bariatric message within your community newsletter or somewhere else where it's less, yeah.
Yeah.
That is a big question a lot of people have.
And you have to be super ultra HIPAA compliant, right? You got to be like, you know, like more secure than the hospitals in a lot of cases. You have to really be able to prove that. But it's a great question.